Now, Super Mario Maker 2 is growing every day with people making more and more levels. And now Nintendo has also joined this race by adding even more free features in an update. With the most amazing thing being the recently added Master Sword from version 2.0. It serves as a power-up and turns you into Link, giving you all kinds of cool new abilities like using the shield to block enemies and projectiles, bombs to hit switches and blow up blocks, a bow and arrow to collect items or attack enemies, and also a sword to hit, down thrust, and do a dash attack with. Now, as you can imagine, this gives level makers a lot of freedom, and even allowed for Zelda-inspired levels to be born, even with the right music playing as you pick up the sword, which is really cool. And after playing around on stream with these new kinds of levels, I decided I had to do a video on it. So today we will be looking at the top 5 best Legend of Zelda levels in Super Mario Maker 2 that I have been able to find. Also, be sure to subscribe so you won't miss any future videos, and there are more of them in the upper right corner, with an entire playlist even. Now let's get into it. Number 5. We are starting off this list with a level that fits incredibly well with the Zelda franchise, because you start outside and go inside a cave to explore it and see where it leads to. In the first section, you encounter a lot of cave exploration with some minor puzzle elements, mostly involving on and off blocks that you need to hit with your bow. And the thing that plays the biggest role here is combat for sure, since many different foes will challenge you. Overall, a good introduction to the level, giving the player more than enough things to do and test, using the Link abilities in a great way actually. When getting out of the cave, you are yet again faced with more enemies and on-off blocks. Especially the pokies you see in that area work extremely well, because if you're good enough with the bow, you can hit them in the head instantly getting rid of them, making it a perfect fit for a level like this. Well, if you're good at headshots at least. And after making your way through caves and even above ground sections, you finally get to the final boss of the entire level, who is actually quite well made. Much better than one we will see later on in this list, from a level called the Inside of the Deku Tree. You basically have to fight a big pokey on a bunch of conveyor belts, which can be difficult as you can imagine. Only a perfect headshot leads to an instant win, so a lot of people tend to die here. However, when you do finally beat it, then you are extremely fulfilled and finally done with the whole level. Overall, not a bad one. Every element of it is fun, and certainly very fitting with the new Master Sword power-up. Number 4. Hey, psst, little side note. We got some cool Dr.Wily merchandise that you can buy right now. It's almost Christmas after all, so that's a great excuse, don't you think? You can find it by clicking in the upper right corner, using the link in the description, or even the top pinned comment. So go check out those lovely shirts, sweaters, and other stuff, and get something cool before the end of the year. Now let's continue. Now our next level is actually not that creative, since it was inspired by something else seen in a classic Zelda game. The Inside of the Deku Tree. This was a dungeon from The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, being the very first one that you go through. Here the tree got a mysterious disease, forcing you to go in and destroy the tree's scourge. And apparently it's infested with parasitic creatures, with the main one being Queen Goma. And now someone made this dungeon in Super Mario Maker, now that Link is in the game. Overall, the two are really similar to each other in broad terms, so the person who made this level did quite a good job in making a more simple version of it in Super Mario Maker 2. It all starts off as you would imagine. Enter the Deku Tree, which actually looks really stunning and is successful in creating the same vibe as the original. Now overall the level is quite straightforward and short. Some elements are certainly missing that were seen in the original from Ocarina of Time, but that's fine. All the iconic things are still there. For example, the upper floor that you need to go to with the spiders on the walls. Sure, those specific enemies aren't in the game, but the creator replaced them with something else that also works quite well. So you go up and make sure that you can access the lower floor, which was a big element in the original, so it's good that this is in the level. However, down there a lot was left out, because you instantly end up at the final puzzle scene in the normal dungeon. So you have to figure out in which order to break some stuff, and then you can go to the final boss, which is actually quite interesting. It's made up of multiple enraged wigglers going back and forth, looking incredibly different from what we saw in Ocarina of Time. Overall, it's a very tedious fight, and I'm not a big fan of it, since you need to hit the block in the middle, which is really hard to do, being quite frustrating. So while overall the level is really good and fun to go through, the last part is quite annoying to be honest. However, it's still worth playing. Number 3. Now for our next one, we're going to look at a level that's more like a 2D side-scroller Zelda dungeon than anything related to Super Mario Maker. It kinda reminds me a bit of the side-scroller section seen in the original and remake of Zelda Link's Awakening, where we even see Mario enemies. The level already starts off in a good way. You need to make your way up to look for a key, since there's a locked door in the room. So you start off with some exploration to find a key and encounter some foes along the way. That can also surprise you, which makes for a good combat section. And this trend kind of continues throughout the whole level, because in the very next room you yet again encounter enemies to beat and a big room to explore for a key. But also something else, because now puzzle-like elements are seen in the level when you try to get the next key so you can continue your adventure. So it really starts to build up, and later on in the level this is seen even more with quite interesting platforming and combat options. Overall, it does a good job at being a Zelda-inspired level. Lots of combat, exploration of rooms in a similar style, and even some puzzle elements. So it's certainly a great example of a Zelda level with quite good looking level design as well. Personally, I would call this a full package that any Mario and Zelda fan will enjoy. Because don't worry, it's not just for those hardcore Link fans. Number 2. Alright, now we really start to get to some levels that are quite popular, but for good reason. They're amazing in every way imaginable. And this level, known as the Hero's Beginner Training, is an amazing example of this, because a lot of people have played it and it creates some amazing sections for each of the new powers. Like the name already suggests, this level is just here to teach everyone who plays it how to use Link's new powers like the bombs, bow, sword, and shield. And it does all of this in separate sections of the level, each one dedicated to teach you something. So if you're new to the stuff seen in the update, then this is a good beginning. What you basically need to do is clear all these sections using those new abilities, and for each one you clear, you get closer to earning the key that leads to the final boss battle with Bowser himself. Overall, it's a very creative and well-made level, a bit like a tutorial from a Zelda game, but this time more dynamic and fast compared to anything Nintendo would make. I especially like the bomb segment, because here they use quite fun and clever puzzles to teach players what is even possible with these explosives, both helping them with playing levels as well as making them, which is also a crucial part of the game after all. And the part with the bow has a similar effect, to be honest. Those two bits are for sure the best out of the whole level. So if you've never tried this one before, then go give it a shot. You won't be disappointed, even if you already played a ton of Link levels. Number 1. Now, while all the levels before this one were fun and all, you know, creating a Zelda-themed adventure that reminds people of the actual games while using all the same powers from it, this next and final one does something completely different. It's not very creative since everyone probably came up with a level like this, but it's the execution that sets this level apart from all the others on this list. It's a fast run-and-gun bow level named Archery of Link. When you start the level, you have to activate an on and off block so you can get to the pipe in order to start this weird level. And you better be prepared for what's to come, because as soon as you go through it, you will be dropped on an on and off block, and you need to shoot the other block so you can fall down to the next challenge. And that's basically the whole level. You get some archery challenges and you need to get past them, so you will end up on the ground again. After clearing it once, you will be dropped in at the top again, but this time the stakes are way higher, because now you can be taken out if you're not fast enough in clearing the level. So the first round was for practicing your archery skills, and now in the second round you have to prove yourself, because otherwise you will meet your end and not be able to beat the level at all. In my opinion, this is a really fun way of training those skills and making it a bit of a speedrun level as well. And the whole thing works incredibly well, which is quite hard to pull off with all these precise shots. Now personally, I like it a lot because it reminds me of a cool spin-off game from the Wii called Link's Crossbow Training. a game that used the Wii Zapper, which functions as a crossbow. What you need to do is pass a series of tests to perfect your marksmanship with it. Personally, I love this weird little game, and I gotta say, this level reminds me of it a lot. In a good way, to be honest. And all of this makes it an absolute treat to play. So when it comes down to it, this is my favorite Master Sword level so far.